Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Naeem, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of neuroscience to explore one of the most critical processes in our nervous system, the action potential in a neuron. If you've ever wondered how your brain communicates, how signals travel through your nerves to make you move, think, or feel, this video is for you, and you'll understand what an action potential is, how it works, and why it's so important. So, grab a notebook, hit that subscribe button, and let's get started. What is an action potential? First things first, what exactly is an action potential? In simple terms, it's like an electrical signal or a tiny spark that travels along a neuron, allowing it to send messages to other neurons, muscles, or glands. Think of neurons as the wiring of your nervous system, and the action potential is the electric current that carries information. This process is fast, precise, and happens billions of times a day in your body. To understand it, we need to break it down step by step. The neuron's resting state. Before an action potential can happen, a neuron is in what we call the resting state. At rest, the neuron has a specific electric charge inside compared to outside, called the resting membrane potential, which is about 70 millivolts. This negative charge exists because of a delicate balance of ions, charged particles like sodium and potassium, across the neuron's membrane. The neuron's membrane acts like a gatekeeper, controlling ion movement through special channels. At rest, there are more sodium ions outside the neuron and more potassium ions inside. This difference is maintained by the sodium-potassium pump, a protein that actively pumps 3 sodium ions out for every 2 potassium ions it brings in, using energy from ATP. This keeps the inside of the neuron negatively charged compared to the outside. Now, this resting state is like a loaded spring, ready to fire when the right signal comes along. That signal is what triggers the action potential. Let's see how. Stages of the action potential. An action potential is like a rapid chain reaction that happens in milliseconds. It's triggered when a neuron receives a strong enough stimulus, like a signal from another neuron. Let's break it down into 5 key stages. Depolarization. When a stimulus hits the neuron, say, from a neurotransmitter binding to its dendrites, it causes voltage-gated sodium channels to open. Sodium ions, which are positively charged, rush into the neuron because they're attracted to the negative charge inside. This flood of sodium makes the inside of the neuron less negative, and the membrane potential rises rapidly, going from 70 millivolts to about plus 30 millivolts. This process is called depolarization, and it's like flipping a switch to start the signal. 2. Peak and overshoot. Once the membrane potential hits its peak at around plus 30 millivolts, the sodium channels start to close. This is the peak of the action potential. The inside of the neuron is now positively charged compared to the outside, which is called the overshoot. It's like the signal has reached its maximum intensity. 3. Repolarization. Now, the neuron needs to reset. Voltage-gated potassium channels open, allowing potassium ions to flow out of the neuron. Since potassium is positively charged, its exit makes the inside of the neuron more negative again, bringing the membrane potential back toward 70 millivolts. This is called repolarization. It's like pressing the reset button after the signal fires. Hyperpolarization. Sometimes, the neuron overshoots its resting potential, becoming even more negative than 70 millivolts. Say, 80 millivolts. This is called hyperpolarization and happens because potassium channels stay open a bit longer. During this brief period, the neuron is less likely to fire another action potential, a phase called the refractory period, return to resting state. Finally, the sodium-potassium pump and other mechanisms restore the resting membrane potential to some 70 millivolts, and the neuron is ready to fire again when stimulated. How the action potential travels. Now, how does this signal move along the neuron? The action potential doesn't just sit in one spot. It travels down the axon, the long part of the neuron, like a wave. When one section of the axon depolarizes, it triggers the next section to do the same, creating a domino effect. In neurons with myelin sheaths, a fatty insulation, the signal jumps between gaps called nodes of Ranvier, making it super fast. This is called salutatory conduction, and it's why your brain can send signals to your toes in a fraction of a second. Why is the action potential important? So why does this matter? The action potential is the foundation of how your nervous system works. It's how neurons communicate to control everything: your heartbeat, your movements, your thoughts, even your emotions. Without action potentials, your brain couldn't tell your muscles to move, or you couldn't feel pain when you touch something hot. It's like the language of your nervous system. Key takeaways. Let's wrap up with the key points. An action potential is an electrical signal that allows neurons to communicate. It starts with a resting potential of 70 millivolts, maintained by the sodium-potassium pump. The process involves depolarization, repolarization, and sometimes hyperpolarization, driven by sodium and potassium ions. It travels along the axon, often faster in myelinated neurons. This mechanism is critical for everything your nervous system does. That's it for today's deep dive into the action potential. I hope you found this explanation clear and exciting. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more science and health content. Have questions about neurons or other topics? Drop them in the comments below and I'll answer them in the next video. This is